Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking into a connection that honestly could really shift how we think about treating heart failure.
hmm
For so long, the focus has been, heart, kidneys. But what if this other system, the lymphatic system, this kind of unsung hero in fluid balance, is way more critical than we've given it credit for?
Right.
So our mission today is to unpack a pretty groundbreaking study. It was published in the European Journal of Heart Failure.
A top journal.
Absolutely. Led by Dr. Barbara Ponikoska from Wroclaw Medical University in Poland. And it was a collaboration with Duke University Medical Center over in the U.S.
Good collaboration there.
Yeah, and the title sums it up. Lower extremity lymphatic flow is associated with diuretic response in acute heart failure. Okay, let's unpack this.
What's fascinating here, I think, is exactly that potential shift you mentioned. We've obviously known the lymphatic system is important, generally speaking, for fluid homeostasis.
To the basics.
Right. But its direct, maybe critical role in acute heart failure. That's largely been, well, maybe more of a background theory until recently. This study from Dr. Ponikoska's team, though, it really makes a strong case for bringing it front and center. So for you listening, especially if you deal with AHF, why is this silent partner suddenly so crucial in this specific situation?
Well, for anyone who follows cardiology, the lymphatic system, this intricate network, right? Vessels managing all that extra fluid, proteins, immune cells between our tissues.
In interstitial space.
Exactly. It's undeniably key for fluid balance overall. But its specific job in acute heart failure, especially with those congestive symptoms, we see the swelling, the fluid in the lungs.
The edema, the pulmonary congestion.
Yeah. It's often just taken a back seat, hasn't it, compared to the heart's pumping or the kidneys filtering. So where does it fit in when the heart struggles and fluid backs up?
Precisely. And congestion isn't just, an annoying symptom. It's a major driver of poor outcomes, morbidity in AHF. And while, yes, the kidneys are our main filter for blood plasma, think about it like trying to empty a bathtub while water's still pouring in from a leaky faucet somewhere else.
Okay, good analogy.
The lymphatic system is that crucial drain, right? Trying to stop the fluid from just overwhelming that space between the cells. If that system is sluggish or dysfunctional,
Which it might be in these patients.
exactly, then even the best diuretics, the ones designed to pull fluid out of the bloodstream via the kidneys, can hit a wall. You might get what we call intravascular depletion. The blood volume drops too fast or worse, diuretic resistance. The fluid just isn't getting back into circulation efficiently enough for the kidneys to grab it. It's this dynamic interplay, this system connection that this study really starts to unravel.
Which leads us perfectly into this diuretic dilemma that clinicians treating acute heart failure know all too well.
Oh, yeah.
Diuretics, water pills, they're the first line, the go-to for getting rid of that excess fluid, that congestion. But then you hit that frustrating wall, diuretic resistance. Some patients just don't respond effectively, even with high doses.
It's incredibly common and frustrating for everyone.
And for ages, the blame, maybe unfairly, fell pretty much solely on the kidneys not working right.
Kidney dysfunction, yeah, that was the default.
But this study, it really asks, hang on, is there another major player here? The researchers hypothesized a direct link, that how well diuretics work in AHF is actually associated with how well the lymph is flowing in the periphery, like the legs.
Right.
So they set out to actually map that lower extremity lymph flow and see how it connects with the body's initial response to diuretic treatment. It feels like a fundamental rethink, doesn't it?
It really does. Moving beyond just blaming one organ,
Yeah.
the kidneys, and looking at the whole system is absolutely key. We're talking about, actually characterizing lymph flow down there in the legs.
Getting a visual on it.
Yes, and then uncovering how it interacts with the actual potential for getting that fluid off early on. It's about understanding the whole fluid management system, how it's all connected, not just isolated parts.
So how on earth do they measure this? Lymph flow seems kind of hidden.
Well, they used a really innovative technique, actually. It's called indocyanine green, or ICG, lymphangiography.
ICG lymphangiography.
Okay. Basically, they inject a tiny amount of a safe fluorescent dye just under the skin. And then a special near-infrared camera system lets them literally watch that dye travel through the lymphatic vessels in real time.
Wow, so you can actually see it moving, like lighting up the drainage system.
Exactly. You see it glow and flow. For this study, they injected the ICG at 3 specific spots on the foot and then tracked how far and how fast it moved up the leg over a 10-minute period. It gives you this direct dynamic window into how well that part of the lymphatic system is working.
That's clever. So tell us about the study setup itself.
Right, so this was what we call a prospective single-center study. It was done at the Institute of Heart Diseases at Wroclaw Medical University.
Okay, in Poland.
Yes. They enrolled 65 patients who came in with acute heart failure, all of whom had noticeable peripheral edema swelling, usually in the legs, and needed IV diuretics.
The typical AHF admission, really.
Pretty much. And the design was quite careful to make sure they were comparing apples to apples. Every single patient got a standardized diuretic challenge, meaning they all got the same dose regimen of furosemide, a common loop diuretic. It was 1 milligram per kilogram of body weight. They gave a 40 milligram shot first, a bolus, then the rest was infused intravenously over 2 hours.
So everyone got a comparable diuretic push.
Exactly. Now here's a crucial detail. The ICG lymphography, the imaging part, was done precisely 3 hours after that diuretic dose started.
Yeah, 3 hours. Seems specific.
Good question. They chose that timing because they figured it would likely coincide with peak urine output from the diuretic.
Makes sense.
And also, potentially, the time when lymphatic drainage might be at its highest, trying to clear that mobilized fluid.
Okay, logical.
Then, they defined their terms really clearly. Present lymph flow meant the dye got above the ankle within those 10 minutes. Significant flow meant it traveled more than 10 centimeters in that time.
Got it. Above the ankle, or more than 10 centimeters. And how did they define who responded well to the diuretics?
They looked at urine output over 6 hours. A responder was someone who put out at least 900 milliliters of urine in 6 hours. Or, if they put out between 600 and 900 milliliters, they also had to have lost more than 1 kilogram of body weight within 24 hours.
Okay, so a clear definition of response based on fluid removal.
Right. Everyone else was classified as a non-responder.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting, right? The results connecting that lymph flow to the diuretic response.
Absolutely. The differences they found between the responders and the non-responders were, well, pretty stark. Almost dramatic.
Lay the numbers on us.
Okay, so remember present flow dye getting above the ankle? 95% of the responders showed that. 95%.
Wow.
But only 73% of the non-responders did? That difference is statistically significant. The chance of it being random is less than 1%.
Okay, that's a clear difference already.
But it gets even stronger. Look at significant flow dye traveling more than 10 centimeters. 88% of responders hit that mark.
Okay.
Compared to only 45% of non-responders.
Less than half.
Exactly. That's a p-value of less than 0.001, highly significant.
Yeah, difference.
And then there's the actual distance traveled.
Yeah?
The median distance the dye moved in those 10 minutes. For responders, it was 50 centimeters.
50, okay. Quite a ways up the leg.
Yeah. But for non-responders, the median was only 10 centimeters.
10, wow. 50 versus 10.
Profoundly different. They even looked at specific landmarks like reaching the knee. 70% of responders had lymph reach the knee level versus only 27% of non-responders.
That's really striking.
It is. And here's what really makes you sit up and take notice. When they compared the two groups, the responders and non-responders, on all their baseline characteristics, things like age, kidney function estimates, how severe their heart failure seemed clinically, they didn't differ significantly.
So it wasn't just that the non-responders were generally sicker or had worse kidneys at the start?
Not according to the standard baseline measures, no. Which makes these massive differences in lymph flow stand out even more. It suggests the lymphatic system's function itself might be a really crucial, independent factor in whether or not the diuretics work well.
Okay, that is compelling.
Yeah, and the stats back it up. They found a significant linear association, basically, a straight-line relationship between how far the lymph flowed and how much urine the patient produced in those 6 hours.
Meaning better flow, better diuresis.
Essentially, yes. The coefficient they calculated, beta, was 0.45, indicating a pretty strong positive correlation. And importantly, this link held up even when they statistically adjusted for other factors we know influence diuresis, like the patient's baseline weight or their estimated kidney function, the eGFR.
So it wasn't just explained away by weight or kidney function.
Correct. The lymph flow association remains significant. So yeah, the core conclusion is pretty clear. For the first time, really, they've shown faster, more extensive lymph flow in the lower limbs is linked with better diuretic effectiveness in acute heart failure.
Wow.
Which, of course, immediately brings up that classic question, doesn't it?
The chicken or the egg?
Exactly. Is the good lymph flow allowing the diuretics to work better? Or is it that when the diuretics do work well, that somehow improves or speeds up lymph flow?
Right. Does better drainage help the pump? Or does the pump working well clear the drains?
Precisely. The study establishes the association, the link, very strongly, but figuring out that cause and effect direction, that's the next big puzzle piece.
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? What's your gut feeling, or what kind of research would we need to really sort that out? Because the implications for treatment seem huge either way.
Well, my hunch, and I think the data leans this way too, is that it's probably bidirectional, a feedback loop.
Ah, okay. Both influencing each other.
Very likely. Better lymph flow definitely helps mobilize that fluid sitting in the tissues, making it easier for the kidneys to access and excrete.
Right, gets it back into circulation.
But it's also quite plausible that once effective diuresis starts reducing the overall fluid overload, it literally eases the physical pressure on the lymphatic vessels, potentially improving their own intrinsic ability to contract and move fluid.
So decongestion might help the lymphatics work better too.
Exactly. To really tease that apart, future studies would need maybe more dynamic measurements, perhaps trying to monitor lymph flow more continuously alongside minute-by-minute diuretic response to see which changes first.
Fascinating. Okay, let's bring this back to the practicalities. Thinking about managing AHF, you used the flooded basement analogy earlier.
Right.
The diuretic is the pump, pulling water out of the main area of the bloodstream.
Yep.
But for that pump to keep working, the water hiding out in the corners,
Right.
under the furniture, that interstitial edema fluid it needs to get to the pump.
That's the key.
And the lymphatic system, those are the drain pipes carrying that fluid back. If those pipes are clogged or just really slow,
Yeah.
then the main pump, the diuretic effect via the kidneys, it quickly runs out of easily accessible water. The body senses the blood volume dropping maybe too fast, and compensatory mechanisms kick in. The kidneys might actually turn off the tap to conserve volume, paradoxically making the overall congestion worse even though you're trying to treat it.
That's a great way to visualize diuretic resistance linked to lymphatic dysfunction. And there were other interesting correlations in the study too, weren't there?
Yes, they found that patients with the slower lymph flow tended to have higher levels of aldosterone.
Aldosterone, the salt and water retaining hormone, always involved.
Right, and the multivariate analysis actually showed that higher aldosterone levels were independently linked to lower lymph flow distance.
So more aldosterone, worse lymph flow. Interesting.
And conversely, better baseline heart function measured by something called TPSE, which looks at the right ventricle, was positively associated with better lymph flow.
Makes sense, intuitively. A healthier heart might mean less chronic backup pressure on the lymphatics.
And aldosterone wasn't just linked to flow. It also turned out to be an independent predictor of not being a diuretic responder.
So aldosterone seems to be playing a role both in potentially hindering lymph flow and in contributing to diuretic resistance directly. It's not just a kidney hormone, it seems it's interacting with the lymphatic system too.
It really highlights the complexity, doesn't it?
It really does. It's this intricate dance between the heart and the kidneys, hormones like aldosterone, and now clearly the lymphatic system. And while, as we said, the study can't definitively prove cause and effect,
Right, association, not causation.
it powerfully highlights this critical interplay. The aldosterone link is particularly intriguing. And, it was also interesting that they didn't find an association between lymph flow and VEGFC in this group.
What's VEGFC?
It's a vascular endothelial growth factor, specifically involved in lymphatic vessel growth and function. Some previous research had suggested a link, so its absence here was a bit unexpected, maybe specific to this AHF context.
Okay.
But the core clinical takeaway, I think, is clear. It's not just about whether lymph flow is present or absent. It seems to be about whether it's sufficiently effective. Even the non-responders had some flow, remember?
Right, just much less. 10 centimeters versus 50 centimeters.
Exactly. It was just profoundly compromised. It suggests there's maybe a threshold of lymphatic function you need to cross for diuretics to really do their job properly.
Okay, now, we should be fair and talk about the study's limitations.
Yep.
Like any research, especially breaking new ground.
Absolutely. Always important, and the authors were very upfront about them.
Yeah, it was a single-center study, just
Yeah.
at Wroclaw Medical University.
Right.
And while 65 patients isn't tiny, especially given they did power calculations to determine the sample size, it's still relatively small when you think about the millions with heart failure. So generalizing needs caution.
Definitely need larger, multi-center trials to confirm these findings in broader populations.
And some of the definitions were maybe a bit arbitrary, chosen for practical reasons, like measuring flow exactly 3 hours after the diuretic. Maybe a different time point would show something else.
Possibly. Future research might refine that. And the ICG method itself, while really neat, has limits.
Like what?
Well, the near-infrared light only penetrates so deep, maybe 2 or 3 centimeters. So in patients with a lot more subcutaneous fat or tissue, it can be harder to get a clear signal from the deeper lymphatic vessels.
Oh, okay. So obesity could affect the measurement quality.
It could. And also, the dye lingers for a while, so you can't easily do quick, repeated tests, say, every hour to track changes during therapy.
Right. So we're not quite at the stage of having a bedside continuous lymph flow monitor yet.
Not yet. That's still a major hurdle.
Okay. So acknowledging those limitations, where does this leave us?
Well, despite those limitations, this research really is a crucial first step, as you said. It opens a door.
And the really exciting part.
The truly exciting implication, I think, is that the lymphatic system could become an entirely new therapeutic target in acute heart failure.
Meaning instead of just trying to force fluid out with diuretics, we could try to improve the drainage system itself.
Exactly. Imagine therapies aimed at actively enhancing lymphatic function. We're not just relying on manipulating the heart or the kidneys anymore.
What might those look like?
Well, there are several possibilities being explored. Some are lower tech, like physiotherapy approaches, things like specific compression therapies or manual lymphatic drainage techniques.
Okay, things already used in other conditions like lymphedema.
Right. Could they be adapted or optimized for AHF congestion? Then there are more technological solutions emerging, like a device called the eLymphs system, which is being developed to try and actively help decompress excess lymphatic fluid.
Interesting. And drugs.
Pharmacologically, people are looking at things like agonists for those VEGF factors, VEGF-C or DED, to potentially boost lymphatic vessel function or growth. Or maybe drugs that could improve the natural pumping action, the contractility of the lymphatic vessels themselves.
Wow, okay. Lots of potential avenues.
Loads. But honestly, the biggest breakthrough needed to really unlock all this potential is better measurement. We need clinically practical, non-invasive ways to measure lymph flow, ideally continuously at the bedside.
That would be the game changer for personalizing treatment.
Absolutely. That's key to figuring out who needs lymphatic support, when they need it, and if the therapies are actually working.
So wrapping up this deep dive, it feels like we've really seen how the lymphatic system might be stepping out of the shadows in heart failure.
Definitely.
It's not just some secondary drainage pipe. It looks like a dynamic, critical partner in how the body manages fluid. And its efficiency seems directly tied to how well our main treatments for congestion work. This research, led by Dr. Panikoska and her collaborators at Wroclaw and Duke, it's more than just an interesting academic finding. It feels like it could genuinely shift the paradigm. So what does this all mean for you listening? Whether you're treating patients, doing research, or just trying to understand the body better.
Yeah.
It means there's potentially a whole new dimension to tackling heart failure, congestion, maybe new hope for patients who struggle with diuretic resistance, and definitely a deeper appreciation for just how interconnected our body systems are.
I think my final thought on this is, if more studies confirm these observations, really nail down the mechanisms, we might genuinely start thinking of the lymphatic system as an equal partner, alongside the heart and the kidneys when it comes to circulatory health and fluid balance.
An equal partner. That's a powerful idea.
It is. And if that happens, it wouldn't just tweak how we treat AHF. It could fundamentally redefine our whole strategy for managing congestion. It could open up completely new avenues, maybe more targeted, more effective ways to help millions of people suffering from fluid overload worldwide. It really challenges us, I think, to look beyond the usual suspects when we're faced with such a complex and common problem.